Hello, I just wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts on Dragonflight in comparison to Shadowlands. So I'm just going to do some world quests while I talk crap. So Dragonflight is a massive improvement on Shadowlands. The only thing I think that's a letdown about Dragonflight is the story's a bit weak and not very interesting. I mean, the start was like, yeah, and when they introduced the three dragons, the three bad guy dragons, Iridicron, can't even remember their names. That was kind of interesting. I thought the first bit was good with Razagath. I thought the cave, the Zaralek Caverns, was quite good, but just overall, I do think the story's incredibly bland and uninteresting in comparison to previous expansions like Legion, where the story was very interesting, and even BFA, I thought the story was very good right up until the end when they just zapped us off with the necklace and were like, job done. So I also think Dragonflight's been excellent in regards to systems in comparison to Shadowlands, where everything felt like an absolute chore. So let's just think back about Shadowlands. So the first patch we had to farm the Soul Ash in Torghast, which was awful, and no one wanted to do it. It was fun like once, and after that everyone was like, yep, had enough of this. And then the prices of the legendary items were ridiculous as well. I thought that was very unfair, and I also thought that when the worst thing about Shadowlands was like when they so you'd have your Covenant and you'd have your legendary, and then Blizzard would do a balancing patch which would cause you to have to recraft your legendary and change your Covenant as well, which was really awful, because then you had to go and then buy a new piece, refarm the Soul Ash, and when the patches hit, the prices of the legendary base items went through the roof. So that was really uncool. Now we haven't really suffered from that as much in Dragonflight. I think some of the embellishments have been changed somewhat, but not as drastic as having to refarm your renown and change your legendary because of Blizzard's oversight or whatever. That was incredibly frustrating. I think the Mythic Plus seasons have been really good in Dragonflight as well. I've really enjoyed going back to some of the old dungeons, like in Shadowlands as well. I really enjoyed that as well. Going back to Mechagon was my favourite. Junkyard's one of my most favourite dungeons ever. I really like Junkyard because you can do it so many different ways, and the little buff bots are amazing fun when you get the haste one and the nature damage one and the armor one, or stamina, I forget what it was exactly now, but that was really good. I think the raids have all been quite good in Shadowlands, even though the story's been a bit odd, because Fyrak doesn't really feel like a last boss of an expansion. He feels like there's still more to go, but I guess they're kind of still in damage control mode because of Shadowlands, so they're trying to get this one done, wrapped up nicely, so they can move on to War Within and really start to improve things, but Dragonflight's been so much better than Shadowlands. I've enjoyed the quest system. Has been very good as well for upgrading gear. So it makes it so you can just spam 11 plus keys to gear up your characters and then move into the 17s. I did find one issue with this patch, the latest patch, Season 3, where you blast past the 11s and have to go back, like backtrack, to farm the quest for the champion gear. Which has been kind of annoying, but it's also nice just to blast through dungeons that aren't that hard at 11 just to farm stuff, and I guess it helps other players too. I mean, I've benefited from when you're on a lower character and you get 480s and 475s signing up to your 11s, so you can just blast through them instead of having to struggle with well, not struggle, but you know what I mean. It's not be as easy as it could be. That's been very fun. As I say, I've really enjoyed going back to the older dungeons. Waycrest Manor, another big favourite of mine. Freehold, another favourite. Ataldazar as well. I think Blizzard have done a really good job with that. Even the older ones from Cataclysm, like Throne of Tides. Was there another one? Do you know what? I can't even remember now. I do think the Dragonflight dungeons are quite difficult in comparison to the newer ones. It's a lot of, well, not mechanic heavy, but there's a lot of things that if you don't know, you don't know, and it's going to cause your group issues when you're in there. What else? Mythic Plus. Yeah, I think Mythic Plus has been really good. Really good this expansion. I mean, I did quite enjoy Mythic Plus in Shadowlands, but Shadowlands was such a downer because of all of the chores attached to everything all the time. And I'm a player that likes to play just the part of the games that I like, and I don't want to have to do other stuff. So, like for example, Corthea. I finished this world quest and I'm just doing it over and over again. So Corthea was absolutely awful, one of the worst patches ever. I don't know what they were thinking when they did that patch. Probably nothing at all. And then if we move on to the crafting, I think the crafting system's been very good. It takes a little bit of time to understand it, but once you understand it, it's very good. I do think they made mistakes with items like Elemental Lariat. So for example, if you got that on the first week of the expansion, you could make absolutely millions and you could max out your profession very quickly, make a lot of gold. But if you didn't get those sort of things, you'd be left behind in the dust and it'd be incredibly hard for you to compete. There's still that problem where everything you make is completely worthless on the auction house and you can't sell anything at a profit at all unless it's a particular niche item. For example, I think the shadow clasps that go on the belts for the stamina, you might make a small profit on them, but everything's reliant on procs. So when I do Dracothis transmutation, and that's completely reliant on procs to make any money out of it at all. If you don't get any procs, it's a loss, which is very disappointing because back in older expansions you could actually craft stuff and you could sell it for a profit, and now also basically all of the raw materials you can get are worthless. Every herb is basically 1 gold or under. There's a few that are 3 gold. I mean, obviously on launch and the start of patches and such, they were worth a bit. You've got a few bits in the spores in the cavern that are worth a bit of gold, but it's not worth farming them because you'd spend hours farming them and you'll get like 600 and they'll be worth 8 to 7 gold each. But again, I'm not sure there's any sort of remedy for that, but it has been much better than Shadowlands. It really has. And I think the events they've brought in this expansion have been nice. So you've got the hunt, that's been good. The soup cook down in Azure Span, that's been very good. I haven't done loads of that, but initially they were good on launch, and they're quite interesting. The hunts, when you've got 20 people doing the hunt, it's quite fun. Same with the soup cooking as well. I also think the Emerald Dream ones that come into the zone, these ones, the Dream Surges, they were okay. Bit more underwhelming than the soup and the hunt. The Emerald Bloom in the latest zone, the Emerald Dream, is good. Still relatively bland, but I think they've gone in the right direction with the public events. I think they've been well received overall. And then I think dragon riding's been a big success as well. It's okay. I mean, I think normal flying's fine. I mean, obviously now because of the speed, I mean, look at I fly this fast on the bird, and then if I get on the dragon, it's 1,000,000 times faster. And obviously we can't go back now because this speed we're just used to this speed. I mean, it's particularly annoying in some zones like the Emerald Dream when you're constantly hitting a branch whenever you try and take off. I do think the runes you could collect for the dragon riding was very good. That was interesting to do in the beginning, and I think they've done well. Also, like implementing it into Azeroth, and I think the dragon races have been a success. I mean, I only do them for the gold. There's no way I'm spending hours practicing these things to get gold. I'm not really into achievements and such. And then overall, in comparison to Shadowlands, I mean, Shadowlands started off bad and it ended bad. The middle was bad. There was nothing redeeming about Shadowlands whatsoever, apart from, as I said earlier, some of the power fantasy moments you had with your Covenant and your Covenant ability were very, very good. So one of my particular favourites was the Marksman Hunter with Wild Spirits, and all the aim shots and just raining down all that damage was really satisfying. Also hitting the big convokes with the Druid when you had an unused trinket and you lined it up with Incarnation and all these things, that was very good. I think they've done well with the talent trees as well. The talent trees are so much better than the old ones we used to have. I mean, people still copy paste all their builds from websites and such. I mean, I do because I've spent so many expansions just with the three rows, and now I'm not going to read all that, but I think they've done a great job, especially when you can just drop one out and drop it back in, and all those sort of things they've done along the way to make it better. But I really hope War Within's going to be really good, and I think Dragonflight's been much better than Shadowlands. It's just a shame the story's a bit limp, but apart from that, very happy with this expansion. I stopped mythic raiding in this expansion as well because I'm just too tired, can't really keep up with the guild anymore. They're all much better players than I am, and I just don't. I enjoy it, but it's them bosses where you have the 300 wipes, and it's just basically it's like when you have a coin and you have to flip it and you have to get the same result 10 times in a row, so you have to get like heads 10 times in a row or tails 10 times in a row, and that's how I feel what mythic raidings are like now, especially when you're waiting for mechanics to line up so you can execute properly. But yeah, massive improvement with Shadowlands. I think Blizzard have done an incredible job turning it around, because they pissed off so much of the player base with Shadowlands. Unbelievable. Like, we were all tired of Sylvanas by then. And like when they're saying things like Zerus Mortis is a culmination of like all these years of story, when it was just like crowbarred in, you know. And I've never heard of the jailer. Like, who is the jailer? Like, he just turns up and he's like, you'll never escape the Maw, and then the first thing we do is escape the Maw, and then in the first cutscene his mouth is covered, which is just such a horrible mistake, because you need to see the bad guy's face, especially in the opening scene, and it's like covered with some thing on his neck or whatever. I mean, it was cool when you went to Zereth Mortis and he was like doing that thing with the world soul. I don't know what he was doing, but it just didn't feel like Warcraft. It felt like something else, and having all the zones detached from each other, I think, was a huge mistake, and just it just wasn't very good, was it? It wasn't Warcraft, it was something else. But at least Dragonflight feels like Warcraft, and I really hope in the next expansion they bring back some of the characters like Khadgar and such, and have see, I've always thought, to save themselves a lot of time, they could just move Dalaran around and have Dalaran as be the hub for every single... I know it's boring, but it could be the hub for every single expansion, and then just teleport Dalaran to a new place to do the thing from there. But, you know, that's just an idea I've had. Also, I forgot to mention, some of the class reworks they've done in this expansion have been absolutely brilliant. Like, the initial Shadow Priest one was amazing, even though Shadow Priest has fallen off a bit now. Absolutely brilliant. The Retribution Paladin one, oh my god, that is so good. And I don't really play a mage, but all the mages I speak to are somewhat happy with the mage rework. I really hope they do continue to do reworks on other classes. Like, I play Unholy DK as a main, and the class is unbelievably clunky, and it's very hard to do things quickly and get your damage up fast, because you have to do so many cooldowns, and then often, especially in Mythic Plus, when you're competing with classes that just press one button and that's their damage done, when you've got to do Dark Transformation, Pestilence, drop your D&D, build your runes, build your wounds, sorry, and then Apocalypse, and then Abomination Limb, and all these things that you need to do when other classes are just like, yep, I've just pressed Icy Veins, or I've just pressed Bestial Wrath. But I do hope they continue to do the reworks, because every rework they've done has been excellent, I think, in my opinion. I think they've done a good job with the open world as well. I don't normally fly around doing world quests, but I've done a lot of that in this expansion because I find it quite enjoyable. And I think they've done a really good job as well in allowing players that don't do Mythic Plus and don't raid to be able to get somewhat near, I mean, not near the item level, but get access to tier sets and access to other things they wouldn't have otherwise unless they did Mythic Plus or they did raiding. So I think that's been a very good step in the right direction, and I'm really looking forward to the delves in the next expansion, because sometimes I don't want to do a dungeon, I don't want to do a raid, but I want to do some progression based stuff, which is not really possible now unless you do group content, and sometimes I just don't want to do group content, I just want to play on my own. But I've got high hopes for War Within and the other expansions coming up. So overall, I'd say good job, Blizzard, on Dragonflight.